ho! Welcome to this week's edition of The Passion of the Digital Artist. And here he is, that passionate digital Christmas elf of an artist himself, Jeff Mueller.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you.
Thank
How have you been?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's been a good week. Busy, real busy. With the holidays coming up, we've got a lot of plans. I think you and your wife and maybe part of your family will be stopping by on Christmas Eve.
I think we're going to be over here for another wonderful festive Christmas Eve like we had last year. That was awesome, and I am so looking forward to it.
There'll be spadinis.
Oh, man.
It's going to be awesome.
It will be awesome.
But that brings us to this week. And really what I wanted to do is go into a little bit more depth with the computer art market and my thinking. And as, you know, as far as trying to help other artists like myself and why we video blog each week. I video blog to share the information that I've learned and picked up over over a certain amount of time as going through trying to make it in the art world today. And e-commerce is such a big part, and I didn't even realize exactly how big of a part that it plays in an artist's development. There's so many different ways and doors that are open to artists to do it full time and successfully make a living while working at doing what I like to say important art. There's the old way, there were lots of blueprints, and I still get today talking with people on Twitter and Facebook, and I read comments about what older artists talking about what makes a person a legitimate artist. And there's so many people. Some people try and say, well, if you don't work the whole time and you're getting sleep and you're doing family stuff, that you can't be a legitimate artist. There's all these different rules, but the rules when you're being creative and expressing yourself, there's guidelines to go by, but they've been so turned over that pretty much it seems like nobody knows what a guideline is, but what the guidelines are. But at the same time, the guidelines for an artist were always undefined. It was somewhat of a secret. And when artists in the past found their niche, they would try and hide and hoard it for the most part and not share, because they felt that everybody was competition. And when they were getting to that point, they were willing to share everything. But once they got to that point, it was like kind of, they would just go with inside themselves. Now, the way the world was, even when I started in the early 80s, was that people could define themselves and have a whole career. I knew so many artists that did the same thing. My father's age, they had been doing it since their 20s. A wildlife artist, for instance. They were doing wildlife, they worked at it, became a wildlife artist, and that's all they were doing. They were doing wildlife art, and they were able to maintain that through a whole career. But with the advent of what is going on today, things are moving so much quicker that I started out being trained as an airbrush illustrator and retoucher by my father and going to art school, coming out of art school. I then went into the what I like to call the expensive computer training, where I worked on a $500,000 computer, redefined my skills, and then that era started to go as the Mac came in, and now you're dealing with the computer era, but it was no longer the expensive. It was more like the computer for everyone era.
The specialty became the commodity.
Right, and that allowed the explosion of art and what's happening today. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because there is no clear guidelines on what to do, but what I am doing is trying to blueprint it in the fact that there's so many avenues open, and even holding down a full-time job and then doing art full-time, because I am definitely putting 40 hours a week one place and probably 60 to 80 hours in my art career. And so you can do it. And I'm using the computer. I'm going out and socializing with people directly. So all the avenues are there, and I'm trying to go through those avenues and play through them for everybody to show that it can be done successful. So right now we're in the e-commerce market. Computer art market has been opened. It's had good traffic this week. I haven't had to push, and one thing I learned is when you do an e-commerce site opposed to your own personal website, an e-commerce site is picked up by search engines a lot quicker. They realize you have a cart, you're working and it sells, so the searchability comes up a lot faster than I noticed with the compared to computerartman.com. Computer art market has now, I'm getting 20 people a day that I'm not sending to my site that come and look around. Now, it's almost up and running to the point where it's up and running for people to come, and if someone would want to buy something and contact me, that's fine. But I'm in the process now of keywording, setting my descriptions, and finalizing that website to get to the point where probably in a couple months it'll be 100% the way I want it to work. And then I'll start promoting it hard. There's so many different ways. You can pick a print or a painting. You can pin it on Pinterest, share it on Facebook, push it from this particular site. With the way that it's set up, it allows for easy sharing, and you could even do it to new pieces, old pieces. There's a lot that you can do that wasn't available to you to doing it at the Computer Art Man site. So I'm running both sites. I've got the Computer Art Man hooked up to the Computer Art Market in the purchasing part of the website, and I do that specifically because even though it takes you to the art market, I want to be selling things from one source, not many different sources. So that covers this week, a little bit more in depth into the e-commerce. Wishing everybody happy holidays, and anything else to add?
We may or may not blog again before the holidays, but if we don't, or if you don't manage to see our next blog before the holidays, just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas or whatever holiday they celebrate, and a joyous and peaceful holiday season.
Yeah, because Hanukkah's already done. So, but happy belated
Hanukkah. I hope all of our friends that celebrated Hanukkah had a joyous and peaceful one.
Yes, definitely. And then hopefully we'll be back one more time. We don't know, but that would be, we'll see. So
take care, folks.
Bye.